The Democrats just experienced their own version of 2020. For years, they've claimed that anyone who questions election results is an election denier, an insurrectionist. Yet, last night in Wisconsin, they got a taste of their own medicine. They witnessed firsthand just how unnatural some of these coincidences are. Take a look at the moment when Steve Kornacki of MSNOW and NBC was informed of a late-night ballot drop, sound familiar? Benefiting Francesca Hong.
Okay. Wow. What the heck just came in Brown? Which was that that was huge for her.
Yeah, so that was about 18,000 votes, and she nets 2,000.
Question. Was that that wasn't central count, was it?
It's possible. There's no remaining vote in Brown according to our counter. I'll check the website.
I said I won't percent more, but now I do, because if that was central count, what was his percentage of that vote?
Let's take a look.
If this was central count, this is the question we're getting at from Milwaukee. If he just got buried in central count Green Bay,
it was 44-34. Hong over Crowley.
Okay, yeah, can we ask our decision desk what we think that was that just,
Yep.
And do we think there's central count left for?
You can just hear the confusion, right? It makes no sense even to them. And that actually was one of the more tame moments of the night, because later, as the evening unraveled, Steve Kornacki actually ended his broadcast because the things just weren't adding up, and his producers decided that they were just going to edit it together for later. But we'll get to that in the second half of the video. Now, despite that huge ballot drop for Francesca Hong, she still ended up losing, and the big story this morning is how these polls were so wrong. It's similar to Michigan. The polls had all estimated that Francesca Hong was going to win, and win easily. In fact, every single poll showed her winning by at least double digits. If you take a look at all the recent ones, up 22 points. At the smallest lead here for her was 13 points. So it should have been a runaway race. So a lot of people are wondering, what in the world happened? How were these polls so off base? And I think a lot of it here is, if we go back to this, you'll notice that the last poll that was taken was about a week ago. So I can't help but wonder if over the past week, when all of these comments about her wanting to cancel Thanksgiving and some of her more radical positions resurfaced, if all of that attention caused the bottom to drop out. Did she lose momentum in the last leg of this race? I think that's certainly one possibility. On CNN, though, they had another explanation for this polling miss.
But I think that this may speak to something bigger, which is the polling may be having too many of those young progressives. And what am I talking about? Well, just take a look here. Who won the 5 counties with the most under the age of 40? That is 18 to 39. In the Michigan Senate, it was Abdul. He won all 5. How about in Wisconsin governor? The exact same thing. In the youngest counties, that is where these lefties did the best. And so when you kind of look at the polling, you go, hey, wait a minute, maybe these polls had too many younger folks in them. And I think that speaks to something larger potentially, which is all these pollings, which is showing progressivism on the left, the far left rising, seeing democratic socialism, especially in the case of Wisconsin, rising. You got to look at these results and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe, Johnny, maybe these polls are overestimating how much that democratic socialism is rising within the Democratic Party, because in 2 key statewide races in a row, what we've seen is the lefties being vastly overestimated, and in the case of Wisconsin, the Democratic Socialists being vastly overestimated by 20 points.
If you oversample among young people.
That's really interesting, because he's claiming, that last night's election results totally dispel the notion of the far left radical part of the Democrat base, the DSA members, of their prominence rising in the Democrat Party. And on the surface, that sounds like it makes sense, right? After all, Francesca Hong just lost. El Sayad's win in Michigan wasn't as large as people thought it would be. But he's also claiming that maybe it's just the polls oversampled young people. And if that's the case, that doesn't explain the rise of how radical the Democrat Party is becoming, right? Both things can be true at the same time. The Democrat Party can be becoming more radicalized, and yet those people might not go to the polls. It makes sense, right? That if you are pro-communism, pro-socialist, pro-fascist, you may just want to grab power. You may just want to tear down institutions and not necessarily participate in a democratic process. So I think he's kind of missing the boat, missing the larger picture there. But at the end of the day, all of that is really great news for Republicans, great news for President Trump, especially with the midterms right around the corner. We'll get to that in the second half of the video. But where the Democrats are really crying foul is when voting ballot results were delayed because it turned out that 5 USB sticks didn't have any results on them. Instead, it was just the audit logs, it was the information, and all of this was just chalked up to human error. But for a lot of people, that excuse, that explanation just sounded, oh, too convenient.
And the results. What we uncovered was that 5 of the sticks had the audit log downloaded and not the results. It's a human error. These things can happen. So basically what we need to do is go back to the operations center and we're going to download out of those 5 machines the results and make sure that's not the audit log. So we have the reports printed from the first download. We're going to reprint and start the process so that we can compare those results. We invite you to come join us. Milwaukee Police Department will come with us too. And so we'll re-download those results and then send them back here to be uploaded.
5 machines are at issue?
Correct. Not the machines, the sticks. So the download process was the audit log was downloaded, not the results.
Out of how many sticks?
9.
And so you will only be reviewing those 5 sticks?
Correct.
But we can't know all of the results, and we can't see these 4 sticks worth of results that were done correctly.
Can you?
Okay, I know that was a little hard to hear with the question and answer moment at the end, but there were a total of 9 sticks, and 5 of them, according to the election officials, were messed up because of what they claim is human error. And so a lot of people started saying, well, this is just too convenient of an excuse. And by the way, at the end of the day, when those votes were tabulated, they did end up favoring Crowley, and that led to Francesca Hong losing this primary here. So a lot of socialists, a lot of progressives in the state are very curious, are very suspicious of those election results. And actually, when that news came out, even on MSNOW, even on NBC, Steve Kornacki was just taken aback at all of this. And you could really, in real time, see him trying to put together in his head how all of this could possibly make sense. How is this even legitimate? And you could tell he was very scared of sounding like a Republican in 2020. Take a look.
I guess the exact thing, yes, is if 5 of the USB sticks were missing results from the election, so then they have to go try to re-grab them. Yeah, and they're all the folks behind the scenes are talking about this as well, so we can also look. It's unfortunate.
The folks behind the scenes here, you're saying?
Yes.
Are how do I ask this artfully?
Awkward, or as I used to say in high school, an awkward turtle. I mean, seriously, at that entire moment, you could tell he really wanted to ask questions. He really wanted to probe that. But when the entire media, when the entire left wing of this country has been saying for years, oh, you're an election denier, you're an insurrectionist, of course he can't question these, at least not on live TV, unless he wants to be a hypocrite. And so you could really tell how in shock he was. And then you heard from his producer there that all the other producers were talking about it behind the scenes. It really, it just is almost unbelievable in a sense. And this really underscores the need for safer and secure elections. That's why so many people champion the SAVE Act. And while there are so many questions about, should we use paper ballots? Can we trust the machines? Can the machines be hacked? What is the audit trail? What is the chain of custody to ensure that no ballots are tampered with? At the end of the day, there are small steps that we can take, such as making sure that you're able to prove who you say you are so that you can cast a ballot legally in this country. There are so many things we can do today, right now, to restore people's faith in our elections. And if we would just do that, even if stuff like this happened, I think people would sleep a little more peacefully at night and trust our results. But because the Democrats have been trying to undermine the entire process, that's why you have now people on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, whenever this sort of thing happens, something just doesn't smell right here. And in fact, things got so wrong, so off-putting, that Steve Kornacki and his team decided, well, we're just going to end our broadcast. We're going to just edit this together for later. But before we get to that, I would like to acknowledge the members of today's Governor's Club. They are Greg Anderson, State of Dade Scraffett, and Moon Fairy 11. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you enjoy. Well, Kornacki, he decided to end his broadcast. This was, if you thought those previous clips were awkward, this one, wow. I can't believe that this was live. This was an official NBC feed. You really can't make this stuff up.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's let's look at it this way. We're kind of indefinitely waiting for them to get their act together here and get the sticks and bring them back and go on. And we've got folks here who are working real late, and I don't think we want to, keep them here to. So this is okay. So folks, here's what's happening. I'm doing this is sort of a cut-in thing. I have to. They're gonna. Let me set this so it's.
Okay.
Okay, so we're doing this is like kind of a cut-in thing. We're gonna tape here that they're gonna insert into News Now. So if you'd like, you can watch us put this together.
Totally awkward. I mean, I wouldn't want to blame him. If there was any funny business going on my side of the political aisle, I wouldn't want to broadcast and cover that on live TV either. It might expose too many of the trade secrets there. But yeah, talk about awkward. And look, a lot of people, I think, are going to misread the tea leaves here. I think a lot of Democrats are wrongly sighing a sigh of relief. I think they're going to believe that Crowley, the more moderate candidate who won, is going to have a better chance against the Republican in the midterms. But I actually think that a lot of this infighting is going to fracture the Democrat Party. A lot of people are talking about the voter turnout here, right? Because in Wisconsin specifically, the Democrat turnout was just sky high. It blew Republicans out of the water. But there wasn't really a competitive race in any of those Republican primaries compared to the Democrats. This obviously was a high-profile race. Francesca Hong's comments on Thanksgiving got everyone's attention, and then when Bernie Sanders and AOC refused to even endorse her, despite the fact that they've made endorsements all over the country, that really got a lot of people's attentions. So look, I think it's a high-profile race, and the progressives, I think it's a mistake to assume that the progressives are going to rally around a moderate candidate. They clearly have a message that they want to send to the Democrat Party. Many of them just are using the Democrat Party as a vehicle to try to impose their radicalism upon the rest of the country. But I think many of them would rather lose to a Republican than, allow moderate establishment Democrats to find success. Because if establishment Democrats are able to win these midterms, then the DNC, the establishment Democrats, are going to say, well, hey, we just proved it. You radicals, you can't win. You have to rely on us. And so I think a lot of progressives are actually going to stay home this November. I think they would rather see Republicans win. So I think it's a mistake to assume that, hey, the moderate's going to have a better chance. This infighting is probably going to last a lot longer, especially now when last night's results are being questioned by so many people on the left. And even on MSNOW, they hinted towards this. Jen Psaki accidentally made an admission about how the Democrat Party has a history of actually picking and choosing its candidates in primaries. Take a look at this.
It is really, and I want to bring Liz Smith into this conversation because Liz and I grew up in Democratic politics. We're still young Of course, but we grew up in Democratic politics together, and I think we both remember well when party leadership really selected the nominees. Now, you would never say it that way exactly, but they would.
But you can now.
Now we can. We're free. You know, they really did, because they would put money behind it. They would endorse, and now it looks very much like party leaders are not picking the nominees. In fact, party leaders pushing nominees is a negative. It's a negative in many of these races. But
that just absolutely makes no sense. We all saw what happened in Michigan, right? One of the most expensive, if not the most expensive Senate primary. And the establishment put all their money against El Sayed. And obviously the same thing in Wisconsin, the establishment going against her. So clearly the Democrat establishment is still trying to select their candidates and pick favorites. And speaking of not too long ago, it was actually in 2016 where the DNC, some claim, stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders and coronated Hillary Clinton instead. So it's not as if all of this is a distant memory, distant history. This really, if you think about it, is just quite recent. But of course, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So, what do you think about the Democrats' odds in Wisconsin in November? Do you think it's better now that a moderate has won? Or do you think that the progressives are actually going to sit this one out and the Democrats may be in a lot more trouble and in a world of hurt come the midterms? Let me know your projections, how you feel about the race and the midterms down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.